Let's talk about 2D Zelda. We haven't seen a new 2D Zelda in a long
In a
time.
while.
A
Yeah.
long time. I mean, I guess technically we did get Link's Awakening. That was a 2D Zelda. But
Yeah, but we're thinking new
we're
2D
thinking new.
Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, the last new 2D Zelda, and I'm not going to count Triforce Heroes, it's over 10 years old at this point.
Yeah, A Link Between Worlds is what popped in my head immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy, crazy.
Or Triforce Heroes. That came out in 2015 though, so it is almost, 10 years.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, and I guess we should talk about, like, really quickly, just talk about if we think, because I wrote an article, and I believe it was actually when Blossom Tales first came out. I wrote an article for Zelda Dungeon that was just like, are the days of 2D Zelda games officially over, since we don't have like the big home console, which is traditionally home for your bigger 3D titles, and then the smaller portable console, which was where you were getting games like Minish Cap and the Oracles, et cetera, et cetera. So I was kind of thinking, like, maybe these days are over. Like, maybe all the new Zelda games are going to be these big open world 3D kind of monstrosities. And I think that there might still be some validity to that, but, we did get Link's Awakening, and that was a really polished experience. So, like, I am a little bit hopeful that we're gonna see a return of 2D Zelda beyond just, like, remakes. Because I think you're gonna get remakes of the Oracles and stuff like that, but
Right.
I'm hopeful for a new 2D Zelda.
I mean, I don't see, like, I kind of get the point that we don't have, like, the 3DS is kind of dead, and we don't really have the next, big handheld console, but at the same time we do with the Switch. So,
Yeah.
and I actually really enjoy having NSO and being able to play those games on my big screen, because I prefer to play on the big screen versus portable with my Switch. So, I don't see why we can't have a brand new 2D Zelda game. So I definitely, if they announce one, I'd be so stoked, because while open world is fun, we were talking about this before the show as well, as like sometimes open world can burn you out on playing a game.
Oh.
So sometimes you just want like a 20-hour, nice, calm 2D game. And I think I think there's still a chance for it.
I do too, which is great, because we're going to talk about here today what we want from our next 2D Zelda game. So I had a few ideas that were kind of floating around in my noggin a little bit here, Al, but you actually legitimately like wrote some stuff down. So what do you want to do? Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? How would you like to do? You're in the driver's seat here.
Okay, I wrote some stuff down like literally 10 minutes ago when we went back to do
That's being generous. 10 minutes.
Because I also wasn't very prepared, because last night we decided to do this other thing, and I was like, cool, I don't have to make my list.
Here's the situation for everybody that's not watching us on Twitch. I was like, oh yeah, great. It's Four Swords Adventures anniversary. Like, let's do a show talking about Four Swords. And I was like, yeah, wow, great, Al. Did you know that this game came out exactly 20 years ago today on March the 18th? Wait, it's not March the 18th. And so we pivoted, as Ross Geller would say.
Pivot.
That's right. So here we are. We're
Okay.
we're talking about 2D Zelda. We're gonna wing it, but by God, I do have some things actually that I do want to like see in the next 2D Zelda for sure. That just
I
like
do
don't
too.
require a lot of thinking. Like they just are immediately like come to my mind.
Right. Okay, I'll get us started on something really simple and easy, and it seems kind of silly, but to be honest, since we haven't really had a brand new 2D Zelda game in almost 10 years now, it does feel like it's been a long time coming. I kind of want to see like the simple green tunic return.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
This is kind of like silly, but I kind of want that back, because while I kind of agree that the open world, it makes it nicer to have like different outfits, and maybe the tunic is kind of like aging now. It doesn't look as cool in 3D. I think it still looks great in 2D, and I love like the little animated sprites of Link's hat like bouncing around. So I would love to have the green tunic return.
Yeah, you know what? I actually completely agree. There's just like a sense of tradition and a sense of nostalgia that's wrapped up in that green tunic that I think is like very important to the series. And you do kind of miss it a little bit in the 3D games, like the big open world 3D games. Like I kind of on one hand like the idea of like each Link from like a Breath of the Wild, like he has a distinct look. And Tears of the Kingdom Link has a distinct look. So I like that these guys have a distinct look, but I could really be down for the return of the green tunic, actually, which really funny leads me into what I want. This was the number one thing that I thought of when I wanted a new 2D Zelda game. I want a new and beautiful art style.
Yeah, okay.
Because like I feel like when's the last time that there was like a new fresh art style for a 2D game? And we're not including Link's Awakening because that's obviously the last time. But that's clearly the inspiration for this, right? Like that game, Link's Awakening, just looks so beautiful and so unique. And I go back and I kind of look at Triforce Heroes and I look at Link Between Worlds, and I don't really like the art style for that. I don't know if it's aged super, super well. I didn't really care for it at the time. It's okay. You go back further and you look at the DS games, and those games, like, they don't look good to me, unfortunately. Like, they look like Wind Waker but shrunken down. Which is exactly what it is, which is why it doesn't look spectacular. And even like Minish Cap, which is one of my favorite games ever, like that game's art style is great. It's whimsical, but it's it's like kind of it's a pixely Wind Waker art style. So like I want something like new. I want something fresh. I want something that looks distinct. I want something that, I don't know, just like pops. Because like I think if you're gonna make a new 2D Zelda game, obviously the game is gonna be shorter than like your Breath of the Wilds or whatever. So like, I think this is again an example that Link's Awakening did really, really well, where it's like, okay, we're a smaller game, there's way less to do, but we want to really polish the experience. We want to make it so that everything looks amazing, everything looks awesome, crisp, whimsical, and I think that you do that again for the next 2D Zelda game. Like, it's got to have, there's a couple games that I'm maybe using like as reference here, and probably no surprises for guessing them, but like, we played Tunic, and that game has a really, really incredible art style that is very, it's like, it's weird because it's unique, but very familiar at the same time. And I would kind of hope for something in and along those lines that could, I don't know, just have like a kind of a different style, or a different feel, I guess.
That makes sense. I completely agree. I think it's not only like we need that for the 3D Zelda as well, but we kind of like are hitting a new age of Zelda. We're done with the Switch Zeldas. We're done with the Breath of the Wild age. So it's kind of time to like evolve and get back to like where we had a new art style like almost every other year, kind of, when Zelda games were being released. So yeah, I agree with you 100% there. And maybe that'll go into what I have to say next is, and this is also something that's kind of silly, but I really loved it in Minish Cap. And it's when you move to a different square of the map, and it like it reveals that square of the map, and you can kind of see what's in it, but the rest of it is still clouded until you go into that square. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, so you kind of like having like the map, you need to physically go to that part of the map in order to reveal it, but each thing is kind of like segmented off, so like you can go to, I know what you're saying.
And just the most recent example I could think of is I played Minish Cap this time last year, and that was something that I loved, is like you move to a new square on the map, and clearly with 2D Zelda, like that's kind of something that you do, is you move to a new square on the map, etc., and it's like revealed to you, and the clouds kind of dissipate, and it's kind of fun to unlock the map that way, or open your map and be like, oh, I've never visited the square, so I'm going to go over there and see, like, maybe I have the item now that can visit that square.
I would say this. I kind of think that, like, I like that, but I don't know if I want that for the 2D Zeldas. And the only reason for that is, like, I think that you can integrate, like, a little bit of 3D Zelda into 2D Zelda. Like I would have, I don't know, something like a Sheikah Tower or something like in the map, like 8 of them or something like that. You go to them, you activate them, that reveals the map exactly like you would do in Breath of the Wild. Or I mean, like, and that reveals like the whole. Let's just say that there's a big map and it's cut into like a big pizza, and like there's 8 pieces of the map, right? What you've explored is like unlocked on the map. You can see that obviously, but actually almost like Horizon. Like if you go and unlock the tall necks, that reveals a lot of stuff on the map to you. So I would kind of like to do something the same way in that game. And I would also like to have, like, I don't know the technical term for it, I'm sorry, but like, like instead of like when you go to the left of the screen and the screen shifts over, the screen just like scales with you the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the comments, let me know what that's called. I don't know what it's called, but like I think that we're like at a point where we can move on from like just like the strict screen scrolling. Thank you. The strict like tiles of the screen, right? Like I don't know. I kind of feel like that. Like there is kind of a certain nostalgic charm to having like the individual screens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there is a downfall of screen scrolling as well, because I think that it makes your world feel smaller. Like Link's Awakening, I feel like the Switch version feels smaller because it's like constantly screen scrolling. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that we can implement that in the new game. And
That
maybe,
makes sense. I kind of more like the idea, I guess, of unlocking it, like you said, with a tower, or like what you do in Horizon with the tall necks or whatever, which is fine. I think the reason I like those kind of maps so much is because it helps me what is the word I'm thinking of? Compartmentalize?
compartmentalize.
Whatever. When you put it in a box and it
Is
helps
that
you
the
like
right
keep
word?
yourself organized.
Yeah.
Compartment. Why? I can't say that word. Anyways, somebody help me. But when you're able to like, because in Horizon you unlock a part of the map. Oh, I did this in Zelda too. You unlock part of the map, and I'm like, that's the part I'm gonna go explore,
Right.
because it's overwhelming to think about the other part of the map that I have no
Yeah.
idea what's going on in there. And that's something that I liked in Minish Cap too, because if you go to that block and it unlocks the map for you, and then you could see there's a spot where you're like, I don't have this item yet. It's another thing that Horizon does really well, is you don't have the item to get somewhere, it tells you on the map so that you could go back to it in the future. So I guess it's not so much that I want that particular map, I just want a map that's going to help me aid in my exploration and being able to come back to
Right.
it when I need to.
Yeah, I would say that you could probably have a much more detailed map, I think. And I'm sure like there would also be like a bunch of collectibles that you could find. I would like to have like something that reveals where those collectibles are, but doesn't like go out of your way to like tell you without you having to do something to earn that. You know what I mean? Like,
Let's
'cause-
just segue into that, because that was another thing on my list, is
Okay, yeah,
a
go
really
ahead.
good collectathon.
Okay, yeah. I agree. I think the Mai are like one of the Zelda's best collectathons.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree, because that's instantly what I thought of. I was
Yeah.
like, that is such a perfect collectible.
Yeah, I agree. Something like that. Something that's like something that constantly rewards you too. Like I think the Mai are a great collectible for a few reasons, because you can hear them. So like you have a good indicator of where they are. Yeah, definitely no Koroks. Jeez,
We're
Louise,
done with
no
Koroks. Please,
Um,
God.
So you can hear them, and you constantly get like for every 10 you get like an awesome reward. And like I think that kind of idea is one of those things where it's like, it ain't broke, don't fix it, let's bring something like this back. Something alongside those lines to really kind of help get you into those little nooks and crannies of the map that you might not necessarily go to if you weren't looking for this collectible. So I agree with that. I think that new 2D Zelda game actually needs to have a few collectibles, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we had an episode where we talked about Tears' collectathons, and for the most part, some of them were actually really good. They were just too much. So
Yeah.
obviously the Koroks are too much. Obviously Addison is a bit too much. But I thought the bubble frogs were really well. It just maybe if they did like 30 less. So it's fine to have multiple. Just don't go nuts with it.
Yeah, like I think the Mai again were like a sweet spot, because what was there, like 100?
I think it's 100. And
but
something that was really cool is like you had a region on your map, and it
Yes,
would tell you
exactly.
how many were in that region.
so it feels a lot more manageable and a lot more digestible. So I was just about to say, like, they should do that. Like,
Yeah.
evenly distribute the collectible, whatever it happens to be, evenly distribute it throughout the map, so that you can like, so that you can tackle it in manageable pieces. And I would say too, I didn't actually have this on my list, but I know that you'll approve of this, and it might even be on yours. But we need a trading sequence if we're bringing 2D
I
Zelda
didn't.
back.
Yeah, that's fine. I like that.
We need a quality trading sequence back, don't we?
Yeah, I miss them. I miss them a lot, and I like them being something that kind of takes place over the whole overarching
Yes.
game.
Yes.
Not just like a segment.
I agree. I love myself a good trading sequence. It's just like I feel like with 2D Zelda, you kind of want to walk a line where it's like you want to have like all of the classic, comfortable, nostalgic, traditional things that you want in 2D Zelda, while also making it kind of new. So like there's some things that definitely fall into like the classic category, and I think a training sequence is like just a proud Zelda tradition. Like bring it back, you know? Like let's. Who needs a saw? I've got a saw. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So to put my foot in the other camp, though, where I think that 2D Zelda can evolve a little bit, what I don't want to see in the next 2D Zelda game is just like swinging a sword, and like that's kind of your moves. And to be fair, like Minish Cap walked away from this a little bit. You can have the Tiger Scrolls, you can have like your moves and stuff like that. But I think that we can actually still like improve and do better with combat specifically. And I'm looking at a game like Tunic for inspiration here. Now that's kind of like a quasi like 2D, 3D weird isometric game. So like maybe that doesn't like, exactly. Yeah, like I don't know if that translates one for one, but like I think the general idea is there. Like I think that like potentially like first of all, you should be able to lock onto an enemy in 2D Zelda. Like, lock onto an enemy, for God's sakes, right? Because you can't really do that in a lot of 2D Zeldas. You just you're traditionally swinging your sword and doing your spin attack and et cetera, et cetera. So lock onto an enemy. Maybe if you lock onto one enemy, the camera kind of zooms in a little bit, and you kind of get that like quasi 3D stance that like Tunic has, and then you can do like the Wind Waker rolls, and then you can do like the like a little bit more options with combat, right? Rather than just like swinging your sword, because like and this kind of goes into the items of the game as well, but like maybe like you're gonna get some cool items that can really help with combat, etc., etc. So like I think there's room to evolve that, because I mean, listen, like I understand why combat was fairly simple in 2D Zelda. Like and again, it's probably one of those things that like if it ain't broken, don't fix it. But I feel like it's time. You could probably improve, you could probably innovate. There's lots of other games out there that you could look at for reference about how you could do this cool mechanic and make it, I don't know, fun, first of all, and like engaging, and something that you want to actually do again and again. So I feel like locking on is a very basic like start to that. I feel like having more things that you can do, like I think that you should have a dodge in this game, or like a roll or something like that. I think that you could probably have like, I don't know, like some other options or something like that. And again, it kind of depends on like what the gimmick of the game is, right? So like, but I would say that you kind of see if you can work your way into that, but just like make combat a little bit spicier, a little bit more engaging, rather than just like kind of swinging your sword. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. A little bit spicier. I agree that it seems, in my mind, it seems like a hard task, because it's like, it's 2D. How much more can you do? But I think you were kind of on the money with Minish Cap having the scrolls. Or like, I'm sure you could incorporate a lot of the combos that you learn in Twilight Princess as a kind of, you know, like the shield bash or jumping over and striking the helmet. And that, I feel like you could do that in 2D Zelda nowadays.
I think you can too, and like I said, like I mean I'm no game developer, but I can envision a scenario where like, and particularly for bosses too, like you lock on to a target and the camera zooms in kind of behind you, so it's almost like you're sort of 3D, kind of like when you're locked onto someone in Ocarina of Time. But just like instead, when you release that lock, instead of Link just kind of going back and running around like he does in Ocarina of Time, the camera pans back up to that traditional 2D like top view angle that it has. So like I think that you could do a lot there, and I think that if you did that and you have like the bow, that's a lot more engaging. If you have like a hook shot, you can maybe like take some parts off as someone. I don't know, right? Like, but like I think that there's room to improve there, because it's. Combat is just fairly like standard. It's always been fairly standard in these games, and I think it's time to maybe juice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda Cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/The Zelda Cast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.